There you are, under the green light. Okay, I'm going to do this before we even start because I always forget. Dawson, are you ready? If for whatever reason we have technical difficulties, this is what's going to happen. The gorilla's going to come on. Dawson put some time into building this. I just want to make sure that it probably won't ever be seen. And so there it is. I always forget. Welcome to yet another episode of The Wealth Equation, episode 5. Here with my dear friend and next door neighbor, Jason Harris. Brother?
I came all this way.
Welcome. I mean, we're not at my house, so it wasn't too close. Dawson, can we hear the music? Good?
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, really excited for today's episode. Obviously, Jason, you're one of my best friends, but you have creatively built your wealth through real estate. When you didn't have an exit of some company to go do that. It was scrappy. It was not on a lot of income. And, you fast forward today, well over 40 million net worth and crushing in so many ways, giving meaningfully to BYU and so many others. And so, yeah, really excited to, dive into your story more. And as always, it's awesome having you. So
Thanks,
thank you for coming on as I drop down a little bit. Is that okay? I'm not too much shorter than Jason now. Still a little high. This is casual. We're having a good time here. As always, disclaimer is I am not a financial advisor. And so these are my thoughts and opinions. Jason does this for a living. And so that's my disclaimer. You have one or you're...
I once was a financial advisor, but no, not a tax professional, not a financial advisor.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about building wealth with real estate with Jason Harris. And so before we jump into it, and Jason, we were talking about this for a second before, I want to talk about this mindset. Last week we had Corbin Church. Again, shameless plug to go watch all the other episodes. Episode 1 was basics of financials. Then we have Jeff Mendez on talking about tax and real estate, which was really good. We had Greg Merrill on, which was great, and then Corbin Church last week talked about, and he does this. I mean, he teaches at BYU, speaks to this demographic, and yeah, just this mindset of I am poor. You prefer I am broke.
I am broke. Yep, that's right.
And talk to me about that. And you've lived this again. In some ways, like you've made tons and tons of monies. You just bought your first real watch.
Yep, that's right.
I would always give Jason a hard time buying, fake watches, whatever, who upgraded, because I know how much money he makes, but I've seen you live in this mindset of just maximizing revenue, minimizing your expenses, not, living well within your means to have net income, and then you put all of it in real estate.
You know better than most my upbringing, right? So it wasn't pretend, it was real. Like that was my life. My dad never made more than 35K in a year. And growing up in Amarillo, not many others also have abundance. And so it was just the way of life. I didn't know anything different. But I also did see the financial struggle my family went through, and it made me want for more because I really had a great upbringing. Was taught good principles of hard work and integrity, but I did see the financial struggle and the problems that created for my parents and how they wanted for more and just maybe just didn't know how to go about obtaining it. And so I wanted to learn why other families and others out there were able to see financial success. And so I just took to reading books and studying those that I saw as successful and affluent and to see what they did and how they attained wealth. And so it just put me on a little different path as to saying, I'm not going to go work for the man. My dad tried that. That didn't work out so well for him. I saw him laid off 2 different times. I'm going to have to create my own path here. And so to me, the only thing I knew is to start putting something away for the future. And so my first job, I meet with a financial advisor. I put away 75% of everything I earn into 3 mutual funds. And it wasn't much. I made $5.15 an hour. So it's not a lot of money that's actually going to.
But you built this habit of investing.
Disciplines.
You built the habit of investing. So you made $5 an hour. And
$5.15. Yep. Worked my way up to $5.85, part-time manager.
I think there's 2 things I want to highlight that are really important not to miss from what you just said. The first is so often, especially at universities, people talk about going and getting a job like it's this secure thing. And once you get a job, like you just kind of clock in, clock out, and you're always going to have a job. Your dad got laid off twice. That's just not the case. Instead, you took the approach of, no, I'm going to become the asset. I'm going to go learn how to create value so I can go create value. And that is more financially secure than maybe going and working for someone else.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting where some people will almost concede what's possible for their career and their life by looking for security in hopes that an employer will take care of them. That's what my granddad did, and it worked out okay for him. He retired with a pension, but that's changed. There's not pension plans unless you're working for the government. Very few opportunities now. So ERISA and the Act of 1986, I believe it was, changed to where it's the responsibility of the employee to invest in a 401k and to invest in their future for retirement.
Which we're going to talk about today.
A big shift, yeah. And so with that came my dad's, not failure. I mean, my dad tried, worked hard. He was a good employee too, but he never had that same success as he saw his dad have. My granddad retired at 55. Now, not with much, but he was able to then have freedom of time. And so I just looked at it and said, look, I looked at security as taking control of my own destiny by putting money away early and looking at compounding and saying, if I were to do this and stay disciplined, I'll someday have a sum of money that can help me have assets to rely on. And so my goals are different now, but then I was excited. It got me motivated to do something different that others around me weren't willing to do.
To go create wealth and be independent, not reliant on your employer. And again, a lot of people do that through being an employee. And even as an employee, you have people that look at that very differently. Some look at it as entrepreneurship. And hey, I'm going to go own this. I'm going to go create the most amount of value as I possibly can, which again, there's a lot more job security there than if you're just clocking in, clocking out. It reminds me of, I'm seeing this video circulate on Instagram of this guy who retired from General Motors. I don't know if you've seen this. Retires from General Motors, is working at a grocery store. This influencer guy comes in, is like, oh, tell me your story. And, about 8 years ago, General Motors goes bankrupt. So his pension goes away. At the same time, his wife's going through cancer. Mm-hmm. And so now he's going back to work at a grocery store. And so now they raised $1.8 million. Like, this really cool story. Yep. But the point is if you can go create wealth and diversify that wealth, not just in a pension plan or just in a 401k, but do it in real estate, different types of real estate, different companies, the market, that's where you can create true freedom. It reminds me of when we're children, we're dependent, right? Yep. And the goal is to become independent.
And then
interdependent, right? Meaning, cool, now you stand on your own legs, you're going to go make your own money and provide, for yourself. And then interdependent, you're going to go, be helpful and provide for others.
Yep. Yeah. It's awesome.
The second, there was two things, like I said. The first was what I talked about, which is your job security. The second is, just highlighting Jason. It's so easy. And what's interesting is we met at Door to Door Con 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And you did not look like this. I call him respectfully Fat Jason. You've lost since then?
50 pounds.
Yeah,
maybe.
shredded, like you're crushing. You were so heads down in your business, flat brim, orange, Creative Gains. That was your company then, which was awesome. And you were doing great. And you've just progressed in so many ways since then, even though, like I said, you were crushing it in so many ways. And so the point is it's really easy to look at Jason today, owns the Wells Fargo building at University and University.
Yeah, University Avenue.
Avenue and University Parkway.
Almost Center Street. Yeah.
Crushed it in so many ways and think, great for Jason. He was you. Like, he was you in your shoes, doesn't come from money like you talked about. Amarillo, Texas, came from absolutely dirt poor, nothing. Didn't have some gift, didn't have some even big summer sales summers, which you would have loved to have. You just didn't.
I'd argue many of your listeners are better off than I am.
For sure.
Than I was, yeah.
For sure. Like, you started making I said 60 on the slide, and you were like, "That's generous." It was actually like 40.
30K. 30K starting out.
Post college.
Yep.
With a wife and
50, 55 maybe.
Okay.
Post college.
with wife, and you had kids pretty quick.
Kids.
Two
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Where you're just coming off of a summer you made 60 or 80 or 150, no kids, no expense, very little expenses. You're, to Jason's point, so far ahead of where he was. And if you do the principles and the things that Jason did, you can be in Jason's shoes, or to his point, much further along ahead. So real quick, from a high level, before we jump into these, wanted to just talk about the difference between buying a home as your primary residence and buying a home as an investment property. And so wanted to take it to the paper here. Let's say you buy a house, and the difference, and the reason why I wanted to do it before we get into it is because Jason utilized this especially early on in his real estate portfolio building career to his advantage. And so for easy math, if you buy a $500,000 home, but it's your primary residence and it's your first primary residence, you can buy it with 3.5% down. We'll call it 3% just for easy math. Closing costs, so you're talking about some version of $20K down into the property. $500K as an investment property, depending on the property, anywhere from 15 to 25%. Let's just call it as an investment property. You're not going to move in. Let's call it 20%. So you have to put down $100,000 come out of pocket, which for a lot of people, you didn't have.
No way.
$100,000 to come out of pocket. So you can do this and have access much easier. But let's say even if you can do both, here's why this less out of pocket can be way better. Not only can you do this more often, but the returns can actually be way better. So for easy math, let's say in 3 years, this is now 600K. This is now 600K, and this is now 600K. Well, the return, because you put so much less down, and this is the power of debt, is significantly better on your 20K than your 100K. So here you made 500K. You have this house. You put down 20K. So you appreciated 100K. So your 480 of debt went to 580. You appreciated 100K. You made 100 grand. Same thing here. Same math. However, over here, you only had 20% down. So minus 20 over 20. Now let's say again, to be fair, you paid a little bit more of debt, but let's just say it's not that much more significant. Versus here, you made 100K, but you used the 100K to do it. Here, 80K over 40, so you 4x your money.
5x actually.
Oh, sorry. 100K, you made 100K minus 20. Oh yeah, excuse me. Minus 120, okay. So you 5x your money, 400%, return. 5x equals 400% return. Here you doubled your money. Or you had a 100% return, or 2x.
Yep.
400%, 100%, and you can do this much more often because you can do this, theoretically 5 times versus 1. And so again, as Jason is going through a lot of these more creative ways, and not even that creative, some of it was just house hacking primary residence, it's important to note that as you're doing it with less debt, your returns can be much higher and you can do it much more often.
I would point out too, same exact asset.
Correct.
Same timeline,
3
much
years.
different return on investment because of the lesser amount that you had to put down. And so phenomenally better outcome on someone that puts less down and uses the bank's money versus your own.
Spot on. So from a high level, as we go through some of these examples, which are real life examples that Jason done, wanted you guys to catch this. And again, as always, ChatGPT is your best friend. What's the difference between buying a property as primary versus an investment would be a great question, and it will go through it for you. So Jason, again, we touched on this a little bit, but you started out with very little. Now you have a lot. Go back to a little bit, this isn't a podcast, but again, just giving some perspective of where you started.
Yeah, grew up in Amarillo, loved sports, have 2 siblings, hardworking family, taught me a lot of great principles, but financially, my family struggled a lot growing up.
Yeah.
And so when I went out into the workplace, I wanted something different and I was willing to work for it. And so when I got home from my mission and went to school at BYU, funny enough that you're talking about some of the real estate aspects, when it came time where I could choose to purchase something, that was a big struggle for me because I did not want to I didn't want to be house poor. And I also didn't want this big liability. And so I looked for creative ways to reduce my expenses because I was so ingrained because of that teenage me trying to get ahead and put money away for my future. I didn't want to take away from that nest egg. And it was only 10, 15K at the time, but it was something and it was growing and that was exciting to me. And I just wanted to keep adding to it. And so I remember thinking through, how can I put this money to work in a way that would be more of an investment, but still provide housing? Your number one biggest expense in life is going to be taxes.
Yep.
But the second one is going to be real estate and housing, where you're going to live.
Yeah.
And so I was actually a nerd. I actually looked at the consumer spending surveys every year that put out what the average American spends in each category, housing being number one, automobiles, food, and I looked at each category, what the average was, and I wanted to beat the average. And that way, that was a bucket of money that I could save that I could then put away to invest. And taxes are your biggest. They just don't include that in that survey. And so, I've done a lot to reduce my tax liability, but then housing was that next bigger one. And so I bought a fourplex as my first house to live in while at BYU because the 3 other units of the fourplex covered all my expenses.
I mean, I'll just go to it, right? And I'll just go to what you're talking about here. So
Yeah,
here's
go to
your
the next one
fourplex.
even, because it's funny, the example you gave is almost identical. I bought it for $434. I put 19 grand down.
So this was your fourplex
My
that you
first
bought.
home that I purchased, yeah. And so what happened is this ended up paying all of my mortgage plus a little excess. And so,
So to be clear, you lived in one of these,
Yeah.
2-bedroom, 1
far
bath?
left side, yep, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Okay, so 3-bedroom, 2-bath with your wife and 2 kids.
Yep.
And rented out the other 3 to different families.
Yeah, actually, I only had Jaden at the time. So Jaden was born at the AF hospital, and I remember bringing him home. Yeah, so this was our first property. But I didn't have to cover any expenses as long as I collected the rent from my tenants, my neighbors. And so what happened, instead of paying $1,000, $1,200 a month, like most people, like my tenants were, I put that money back into my Edward Jones investment account. So instead of increasing lifestyle, I am poor. I'm going to live under less because I want to bank it for the future. And so I just kept doing it. I just was able to get more and more that I could stock away. So that became the next down payment for the next deal. And it just got to a point, John, where it's just too slow. It's like, man, my income, $50K a year, it's not like if you make $50K a year, how much can you actually save of disposable income to put away?
Yeah, very little.
Yeah. So it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, and of how much you keep, how hard it works for you. So eventually I realized, like, I need to increase my means because I'm good at defense. I'm pretty good at being frugal. My wife and I, Carrie will even talk about this, we had a goal for a few months, it didn't work out long term, not to spend a single dollar. And if any money was spent, anything, utilities, food, mortgage, all the the needs as well. We had to write it down on this checkboard as we were leaving the door, and then we could talk about it as a couple. And then it was a clear needs versus wants. What are we actually spending our money on, and is it important? What can we keep so that we can invest for our future? And so obviously your spouses do not like that plan very long. So fortunately, Carrie is not on that plan anymore.
No, she's not. I can attest. She spends,
But I'm grateful for her for being willing. Yeah, it's changed. But it's because of what we were willing to do early on.
I think I think, Jason, there's 2 things that massively highlight that Corbin has talked about. And it's the first principle is if you're willing to do what most people won't, you can have the life that most people won't.
And we talked about that.
Like everyone wants what the top guys, you saw the golden door panel. Everyone wants what those guys have, be on the panel, make tons of money. Most aren't willing to do what they do. You're no different. This mindset that you guys did, and again, worth calling out for you, and I know still today, everything in excess, the way you think about it is, how do I invest? How do I invest?
You're like that too. Yeah, of course.
And it's competitive. And you're looking at the scoreboard of, okay, how much can I invest? How much can I invest? To your point, I've done the same thing. That's the thing that I've been most motivated by my career, financially speaking, was how do I invest more and more and more? And it's exactly how you've done, which is, hey, I'm gonna make as much as I can, which you're about to talk about. I'm going to spend as little as I can, even going through this painful process of writing it all down, so that I can have more to invest more.
Yeah, had an Excel spreadsheet. We talked about it. She hated it. And I didn't love it either, but I loved the ability to save something and put it away. I was all about keeping more and then putting it to work. And at the time, it was, retirement accounts, stock portfolio, but it was so I could grow it to then buy the next real estate deal. It just wasn't happening fast enough. And that's where things started to snowball and compound when I started to look outside just what I personally could invest.
Other people's money.
Yeah, I was good at finding deals. It was about trying to find others that had capital and creating a partnership where it could be a win-win for both.
So just some principles, and here's this slide that, I have a very similar slide that we talked about on episode 1, which is, again, increase your income and reduce expenses, which creates the most net income, increase disposable income, invest in appreciating assets, and do that again and again and again until you're living the life that most people won't. And again, it's worth calling out, you are 40.
Yep.
You're not 60. You've been doing this consistently, and now that you're 40, again, you live the life that most people would love to live. At least from a financial standpoint, and you have an incredible family and do so much good in the world. You've helped out us, me, and so many others so much. But again, it's because you've just done this consistently, and it's just compounded massively. We spoke about this on episode 1 as well. Just the power of compounding. And unlike a lot of the groups that you're talking to, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and you talk to some, the average listener here is 21, 22. And so this is more applicable to them than anyone else you're going to talk to. If they can start doing this now, the graph is way more aggressive.
Significantly better. And really, that's where you'll get the tail end of the curve right there, which is more exciting. And it's really funny, the whole philosophy of investing. You don't see the end of the curve in the beginning. It feels so hard, arduous, nothing's really happening. The majority of my growth is my contribution, not the actual growth of the investment. So it's 10, 15 years in when there's a nest egg there that's now compounding, where that really takes off and becomes compounding, where the contributions towards the overall account balance becomes more and more or less and less meaningful. And the return of the investment actually becomes the biggest aspect of the growth. And so it's the philosophy of investing. It really takes those early years of discipline, which I was willing to do as a teenager, that's put me at a point now where I just have more invested that allows that compounding to take place. And so now what I contribute to the account balance isn't as meaningful as the growth of the overall balance.
Your money has made you more money than the money you've put in.
Yes.
And that's true. Again, Casey talks about the same thing. I know he's in 100 different individual deals. Todd's in 500. Todd's 10 years down the road. He gets the compounding benefits of those 10 years. And it's, again, we showed the graph of Warren Buffett throughout his life. His first billion wasn't until, I think, 55, and now he's got 100, because it's just this, and it's not just money, by the way. It's a life principle. It's the relationship we have. Our relationship today, 8 years down the road, isn't 8 times better than it was in year 1. It's 800 times better, because now we put in more and more time, more and more meaningful experiences. We were just in Vegas 2 weeks ago together. Again, we live next door.
There's pros and cons to that too.
Mostly for me on the cons. Pros.
My drive to work.
Exactly. Yes. Speak to see me work out. Again, you just get compounding benefits, and you certainly do with money.
May I share something on that
Please.
real fast? So I was able to speak to the BYU football team on this.
Yeah.
They're young guys too, looking to try to do something with this new money that they're coming into.
I mean, NIL has created the same problem that we face.
Yeah,
Same demographic, early 20s, making lots of money. what do we do with it?
Bronson all the time talks about athletes and sales guys being very similar as far
Yeah.
as what they face. So in this, you actually see $100,000 invested and what that can do over 40 years.
Yeah.
Imagine being 20 and at 60, having $1 million or even $9 million available based on the power of the compounding. But I think it's important to recognize the tax efficiency of how you invest. That 100,000, if you put that to work in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, or in a lot of these guys, Roth Solo K through their S corp, when they set up their LLC,
Yeah.
you can set that up. That allows all of the growth,
To be tax
the
free.
9.2 million
It's
of
yours.
the 9.3, to all be tax
It's
free.
not Uncle Sam's. There's
So
no
it's
portion
so
of that.
critical to make sure that you're tax efficient with how you're investing also, because it's about keeping more. And if 9.3 is taxable at retirement, that's a 40% hit to that balance, meaning you're only keeping 5.5 maybe of that 9.3
Yeah.
versus the whole 9.3. And so important to invest Roth accounts when you're young and forgo the tax benefit today for a much greater benefit down
And
the
it's
road.
what you're talking about. It's not sexy. Now it's $7,000, I think. It's
75 next year. Yeah.
7,500 this upcoming year. It's not this sexy, immediate, you're going to see it. No, you're going to put 7,500. And next year when you go to put in 7,500 more, your 7,500 might be 7,800 or it might be 7,300.
Yeah, there's an inflation usually.
Like,
yeah,
it's
change.
just not going to be that productive at the beginning. But by doing it
Yeah.
consistently and building this muscle that you built young, making $5.15 will get you to where you can capture the compounding benefits.
And moreover, you and your spouse can do that 7,000 or 7,500 amount.
Yeah.
Plus, if you did set up a solo K within your S corp, you could do another 24,000. You and your spouse.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're at a 60,000 plus type of amount, and that's when it really can become maybe a little more powerful. But yeah, whatever you can do, just make sure it's tax efficient. Whatever you're choosing to put your money work in, because otherwise, you're not looking at the true net return. Taxes will take its toll, and you don't want that tax drag to hurt your overall return.
Do you want to speak on the Rule of 72?
Yeah, Rule of 72 is simple. It's just looking at how quickly your money can double based on the return. So if you're getting a 6% return, 6 divided by 72 is 12 years.
Yeah.
Obviously here it's going to show a much lesser amount that can compound to, versus if you can hit a 12% annualized return, it doubles every 6 years, allowing you to double a couple more times, going from $1 million to $9 million in the same time span. And so making sure your money's working for you meaningfully, but also tax efficiently, will make it where that $10 million nest egg is possible for you tax-free.
It's just an easy way to think about, how quickly can I get this money to double? Rule 72.
Yep.
Depending on the return, 10%, 7.2 years, that's when it's going to double. Higher return, going to double faster and
Yep.
compound
Yep.
faster. I thought you were quoting yourself with this. I'll read it. The fastest way to wealth is owning as much real estate as you possibly can, as soon as you can, with as little money out of your pocket as possible without compromising cash flow. So that's, again, the example of primary residence versus investing, a massive difference in how much you have to put out. And this is how you built your wealth. And you've done it tax efficient, which I know we're going to talk about today. You've made tons of monies over the year, and you probably haven't paid taxes in a really long time.
Very little. Yeah, it's a goal every year to get it to zero. I mean, that's the goal typically. But yeah, there are other taxes. You've got so many different taxes.
Yeah.
But federal and state, I'm pretty good at never having a tax burden.
So again, we talked about this just from a high level with Jeff Mendez as well. But why invest in real estate? We talked about leverage and the power of leverage and how it's a hard asset you can borrow against. Cash flow, we talked about with Corbin Church in depth. Jason just spoke about it, how you can live in the one unit of the 4 or one room of the 4 or the basement. Corbin Church is big on buy an upper and a lower, and where you live in, the
Yep.
lower, because you can rent out more for
Yep.
the top for more. Cash flowing, and then when you go, so there's two things, and one I wanted to mention as well. You go to buy another property, you do the same. Now you rent out the basement where you were living. Now you're covering the mortgage and you're cash flowing. You're making an ATM like Corbin talked about. The other thing that's worth noting, when you buy a primary residence and you live in it for 2 years, we didn't even put this on here, which is noteworthy. The appreciation is tax-free. So that $100,000 that you grew, if you had it for 3 years and it was just an investment property, it would have been taxed at long-term capital gains or income, long-term capital
Long-term
gains.
capital gains, yeah.
So long-term capital gains, 100 grand. So you're giving back $25,000 back to Uncle Sam, versus if it was your primary, you're not.
It's called the primary residence tax exclusion. You have to live there 2 out of the last 5 years. So Carrie and I have actually done 2 different homes that we were able to sell and still utilize that. It's a $500,000 exclusion if you're married, $250,000 if you're single. And so you can own a home and live in it 2 years, rent it out.
$500,000 single, 250 married. I mean, that's not significant. The other way around.
Yeah,
250 single, 500 married.
Yeah.
So again, you look at, and who knows what the Utah market's doing? Who knows what the market around the country will do? We know real estate. Someone described the market, I think Greg did, and real estate as a man doing a yo-yo and walking up the mountain. Like it will go up and down, but it will go up.
Yeah. What happens when interest rates go down? Typically, your borrowing power goes up. That allows for higher, appreciation, higher values, and so
Correct.
it's very
More
likely,
buyers.
despite being in a higher market than we were based on when I started, values will still go higher over time as interest rates come down, and so I'm more bullish on the Utah market. What's happening? We're not investing much in Utah at the moment, but I like Utah as a market.
So jumping into, and we'll do this for about the next 15 minutes, Jason. Just wanted to jump into a few of your examples that you would like to touch on of how you house hacked here. This is the same house. And how you built your wealth. And so we kind of talked on this one. Maybe speak about this one.
Do you want me to talk about how I did that one real
Please.
fast? Though?
Yeah, sure.
So
This
that first
one.
one was a HUD loan. It was an owner-occupied loan. It's because we lived in it, we were able to put so little down. And just some key things. Try to close at the beginning of the month. Because it was a fourplex, I was able to get all the security deposits of my tenants escrowed on the settlement statement.
I think you have that here. These
Oh, yeah. Those are a couple different owner-occupied
hacks.
loans.
Sorry, here. Jason's secrets to maximize the house act. Here,
Yeah.
closing at the beginning of the month is one.
I got a first-time home buyer credit at that time. There's actually one in Utah right now. And there's pending a federal credit that could come in 2026.
For first-time home buying.
First-time home buyers, if you haven't owned a home in the last 3 to 7 years, it's worth looking at. Up to $20,000 if it's a new home.
Jeez.
And if it's a used home, there's another credit available. And then there's a federal credit that could be up to 15 grand.
So why would the government, because again, this is government giving you money, giving you this isn't depreciation, you're writing off 10 grand or 15 grand or 20 grand. This is a tax credit, so you pay $15,000 less.
That's right.
Why would the government do that?
Affordable housing crisis that we're in. I mean, they want American citizens to be able to own their own home. I mean, that used to be and still really is the American dream, to own your own home and your own place. And so it's just a way to help hardworking, younger U.S. citizens be able to get into their first home.
Amazing, which is so many on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is
on
why I
this
think it's
stream.
worthwhile bringing up. So in Utah, I think it's like 832,000 is the primary residence conventional loan limit. And there's up to a certain amount that the credit will go towards. And so understanding getting the best terms for your financing, utilizing HUD, FHA, VA, if you have access to that. And then there's some portfolio loan products that certain banks will offer. Otherwise, your typical conventional is going to require 5% down with PMI, 20% down with no PMI. For me, I didn't have the means to save up for 20%. So I needed that maximum leverage, 97% plus opportunity, which is why I went FHA on my first fourplex. But it allowed me to then get security deposits from the tenants, prorated rents. They also escrow your first payment as a part of your closing cost. And so that very next month of owning the fourplex, all the rent income I was able to get back. So when I only put $19,000 down, because of the $8,000 first-time home buyer credit, security deposits, prorated rents, the next month's rents, I had all 19 grand back in the first 2 months. That was the most exciting thing that I had ever done because I went to zero pretty much buying the fourplex as far as cash in my account. And to be able to replenish the cash so quickly, to me, it's the velocity of money concept where I was able to get my money, put it to work, retain the asset, get my money back out, and then go repeat that somewhere else and retain the asset that's now cash flowing for me. So
Which is what you did here.
That's the first fourplex deal, yeah. And that allowed me to then start saving up for the next deal, which we can go through different ones. But
And Tanner, I just realized I didn't send out in the announcements the link. And so this will live forever. But if you would, please send out the announcement. And then people can join live. My apologies to everyone that will be joining. Go back and watch this as you do. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so maybe we'll just do the next one here. This, for those of you who love podcasts, Bigger Pockets, my wife and I, 10 years ago maybe, eight years ago, were on Bigger Pockets. And we talked about some of the deals that we did to grow our portfolio in the early years. This was one of the deals that I highlighted on that. This I bought on a hard money loan. Hard money is easy money, but it's expensive. So
Correct.
it's easy to get. It's usually going to cost you more than a traditional loan and underwriting. But as a part of that, I knew I was buying it well. So because I had done other real estate deals and the hard money lender knew me and my track record, they were willing to essentially finance the whole purchase price.
You put in $3,000.
I put $0 down as a part of the purchase. Then with my own $3,000, did some upgrades to the exterior and the yard. I then, after 30 days of doing those upgrades, went to the tenants and said, I'm the new owner and landlord here. I'm wanting to beautify the space. But as a part of that, I need to get rents to market. All of them were on long-term, month-to-month. They weren't on contracts, but they were month-to-month and had been long-term tenants. And so they happily, actually, because of the upgrades I was doing to improve the condition of the building, paid the higher lease rate, which then I was able to then go turn to the bank and say, I'd like to appraise my property, which it appraised for $475 at that time. That $475,000 appraisal on conventional loans, they were allowed to do a 75% levered loan off of that higher appraised value, which then allowed me to pay off the hard money loan. I didn't have to bring any cash to closing. So now I had a really good 4% loan, whatever it was at the time, and it cash flowed about $800 a month. I sold it 7 months later and sold it for $562, and so I made $160,000, whatever it was, $196,000 in 7 months with $3,000. So I mean, great return on investment.
$3,000, 33 times 7. That's like you 210 extra money.
21.
$3,000. Oh no, sorry,
return.
$700,000. So 30, 60, 66
Yeah.
extra money. I mean, you made $200,000
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
3.
Yep,
You did well.
did pretty good.
And I guess, Jason, who taught you how to do this stuff?
I read a lot of books, went to a lot
I
of real
think-
estate seminars.
I think that's the point. Is that you
Learned.
didn't have this mentor holding your hand through all this. You took it upon yourself to listen to podcasts, to read books, BRRRR strategy, buy, renovate, raise rents, refinance, repeat. Like you read that book and then you went and did it.
Yeah, door knocked, found the guy, door knocking, got his number, cold called, found a way to meet his needs and gave him what he wanted. It allowed me to get the price I wanted, and that's how I did it. So again, coming from Amarillo, you are willing to do hard things. I was willing to door knock. Who door knocks financial services, John? Not many people are willing to do that.
But there's others from Amarillo that didn't, right? And so I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
again,
that's
there's
true.
there's this call out of no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, you're in the driver's seat. Yeah. I want to call it something that Jason said. So there's 3 ways to appraise or value a property.
Yeah.
You talked about the income method. So what Jason talked about is he bought this property, he raised rents, and then he went and took it to the bank. The reason why the bank said, okay, now it's worth way more and we'll give you this loan is because the income was now increased. And so that's, again, with investment properties, with other things, you can value it like a business on the income method. The second is we'll do comp, comparison, or comparables method. Which is cool. We're gonna look at your house is very similar to all the houses on the block. That sold for $500,000. This sold for $480,000. That sold for $520,000. Cool. Yours is most similar to this. How many bedrooms? How many? Okay, yours is worth $510,000. And then lastly is build. I got those right? Those 3.
Cost approach.
Cost approach.
Which is build.
Yeah, build. To cost to build. Switch.
Yeah.
So how much would it cost me to build what you have? And again, it can be different. And so most of the time, banks are going to look at income and comparison or comps. And when you go in, you force appreciation, which is what Jason does. He did here. You heard him talk about it. He's done that with so many of our properties. We've done now 20 full cycle deals. You typically are finding distressed assets, distressed in two ways. One is there's immediate value add on the property. And where is the most amount of value? The exterior, curb appeal. You've talked about this. Again, I remember you talking about this 8 years ago. So curb appeal, you heard where Jason put the $3,000. It was some of the exterior and the yard.
Sweat equity.
Sweat equity. You forced it in. The second is you can go increase rents. A lot of these distressed properties have older owners and they haven't done any rent increases for a lot of years. And so you can go find these properties that have distressed. It's a distressed asset for those two reasons. You can go force appreciation by making it better, putting your own money in, and by increasing the income, at which point your property can be worth way more than the time or money that you put in.
Yep. I want to call attention to something here. So when you're dealing with 1 to 4 units, do you think it's income comp approach or cost approach that's more often used?
I mean, I would think it'd be income, more than 4.
More than 4, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's commercial property is focused on NOI income approach.
Yeah.
1 to 4 units, it's the comp approach. And so for me, I knew the income needed to support the debt service coverage ratio of me as the guarantor, but also the property. But it was going to be the comp, the other comps of other fourplexes that were similar to mine that was really going to drive the success that I was going to have of being able to get that refinance. I would not have been willing to do that because I didn't have any other money. You know, in those early years, I didn't have money, so I had to make sure the numbers worked. And so I was confident in the comps around me that if I could get the lease rates closer to the $800 a month, I remember these being $800 to $850 at the time, that I could get that 475 type appraisal because of the others on the market that had sold for that. And so that's what gave me the confidence to go in and buy it like I did, because otherwise I didn't have 120 grand to bring to the table to refinance out of that hard money loan, and it could have really set me up to be in a bad spot to lose the property and any money and other worse things, you know, bankruptcy that could have happened. So
again, these are, as you're listening to this, you can hear how much work Jason is putting into this. This is not passive investing. This was
very active.
Very active for you, which is not what we do with you today. Today we give you money and your team goes and does the active part of it. We've talked about this on almost every episode, the difference between active versus passive. Not better or worse, not necessarily higher or lower returns. Preference, what are you doing? What is your day-to-day? What's your BATNA? Well, if your BATNA is going in, your BATNA, I'll spell it out, BATNA, which is best alternative, I always have a hard time saying words and writing them, to negotiated agreement. It's essentially, what is your opportunity cost? Well, if your opportunity cost is making $500,000 in a summer and going to school, like, it might not be worth making this your full-time gig.
Yep.
If it's not that, or you wanting to do it this way, again, it's not better or worse. It's just being aware this was not casual for you.
No, it's why the value of my time at my day job was $50K a year at the time.
Correct.
It could justify me hustling on the side, doing the real estate as much as I could because I liked it, enjoyed it.
Have a side hustle when it makes you more money than your primary hustle, or per hour you're making relatively the same or more.
If I was making 150, 200K out of the gate, I probably would not have been on the doors knocking, trying to find other opportunities, right? It's because of my low starting career income.
You were forced to be creative.
I wanted something more. I needed to be, and I was willing to be. And so that's what's really pushed me. And just think, this is what's funny to me. It's like 50K a year no wonder I needed to construct a deal like that, because I didn't have 120K to go and invest and buy the property.
Yeah.
I needed to find something creative, and so I was willing to go out and hustle and do the work, because that time was justified. If I could go make 196,000 tax deferred because I 1031 exchanged out of this, it would have taken me 4 years at my day job to do that. So for me, it was like, I absolutely am willing to go and do the work to buy these deals, because I was building wealth on the side while I was learning. I did enjoy my financial service career. I learned how to talk to investors. I learned how to understand markets. I learned how to identify good and bad assets and how to speak to it and how to diversify. And so there was good that came from it, but it wasn't paying me what I thought I was worth. I thought I was worth more, and that's why I was willing to go do other activities.
Yeah, again, you hear so many insights. Success leaves clues. And so as you're listening to Jason, again, what you just finished with, I viewed myself a certain way. Your identity has always been, I am a killer. I am a billionaire. They just haven't paid me yet. Like you've always seen yourself as more than you were. And your dreams today are obviously much bigger than they were 10 years ago. You didn't see Kukule'ula 10 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You saw maybe a side house in St. George or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like your
much
dream,
different, yeah.
It's much different, but
Yep.
it's always been striving for more. You talked about being competitive, wanting to be the best. It's these habits and rituals that have gotten you where you are today. Seller finance. So talk to us about seller finance and how that works.
Seller finance is where you take title of the property, but you're not getting a loan from the bank from traditional sources. You're actually asking the seller to finance it for you and act as the bank.
And again, I bought your house, the house next door, which I'm actually refinancing at the end of the month. I'll catch you up. On a seller finance. So again, there's no exchange of money there. It's the lack of exchange of money. So again, $500,000 home. Let's say they have it paid off, or they don't. They have a bank loan. Let's say they have it paid off. Some guy has owned it for 40 years. He has no mortgage on it. You go buy it, and he's down to hold $200,000 or $400,000 as a note to you. Cool, you can't go get traditional financing, or he's willing to do it at a 3.5% when the bank will only loan at 5.5%. That's the advantage in a seller finance deal.
Yeah. So it's a pretty cool scenario. This particular one was an on-market deal. The last one was off-market, but this one had a realtor involved, and so I negotiated this with the realtor, but got to meet the underlying seller through the negotiation. Cool. She had to have $480,000. That was an absolute. But I will give someone their price if they give me my terms.
Yeah.
And so for me, I gave her her price, but I asked for a seller credit, a seller finance deal where I only put $15,000 down. So she carried the $465,000 note. And during a 18-month window, I would pay her $4,200 a month towards the mortgage, but all of it was principal reduction.
So you're just paying yourself.
So I was giving myself the money.
Correct.
And how was I paying the $4,200? Well, this house, she had to lease her space that she stayed in for that time. Actually, I don't know. Maybe she moved out. She did move out. Temporarily, then, I put a tenant in the upstairs, and there was 2 basement apartments. So it actually acted as a triplex, which is why I was so intrigued by the property.
How long was it on the market?
A while, because not many people actually like those
Which
types
is
of
probably
properties.
where you saw it.
Yeah.
And you're like, cool. 60, 80, 90 days on the market. What does that smell like? An opportunity.
Yeah.
One thing, wanted to just say what Jason said. So you have a mortgage payment. Thank you. Mortgage payment of $2,000 a month, let's say. $1,500 maybe is going to go towards interest. $500 is going to go towards principal. So Jason, interest, was putting $4,200 all towards principal. So he wasn't paying the seller. He was giving it all to himself. When you are paying down the principal, you're just paying down the loan that you owe to the bank, or in this case, the seller. So just again, wanted to define the terms principal, interest, mortgage payment. Mortgage payment can also include home insurance, and property taxes is in a typical mortgage. And so as you pay $2,000, it's going to all those things.
Yeah. So this lady needed the income from the sale, but I asked her to carry the note for 18 months. So I structured it where I could give her $4,200 a month, which was enough to meet her need, but it was all principal reduction. So there was no interest for 18 months on the $465,000 note. So what happened, I leased out the house between the 2 basement apartments and the upstairs for over $4,200. And so the tenant's rent was what covered the $4,200, allowing me to get a $63,000 discount over the 18 months. So between the $15K down and the $63,000 I paid over 18 months, which wasn't paid by me, but by the tenant, I then had built up about $80,000 of equity, which allowed me to then take the property and get it appraised, refinance it without putting any money down. So it ended up being a $15,000 down, and then I sold it 6 months later for $560,000. It appraised for more than what I bought it
Five
for.
extra money with, again, very little down, a little bit of arbitrage, getting more money. Like you basically de-risk the entire property by getting more money than what you were paying every single month.
It's so important to give a seller what they want. I love knowing what someone needs, structuring it the best I can to give them what they need as long as it meets the parameters of what I need. And so this was just a typical example. She needed income. She wanted her price. She got all of that, but I still got a great deal and made a great return.
The importance of sales. I mean, it's just sales. Understanding, again, the house that I bought next to you, same thing. I understood what he wanted. I understand he had a problem that most people couldn't solve. I could because I had a house that his daughter-in-law or his daughter and his son-in-law could move into. And so because of that, I got him what he wanted and I got what I wanted and I got it at a favorable price. Here, and in sales, again, finding out what they want and then being super creative. Like this wasn't a deal that most people had done, or else I'm sure
That's why it's set so
100
long.
people would have done the deal. Anyone would have done the deal that you did. They just weren't creative enough to structure it.
Yeah.
Jason, let's talk about a few more, and then we can open up for questions. Again, apologies for not sending out the link earlier. So people are still probably getting caught up, so we might not have as many live questions. So let's just go through more of these. A LEAPS option purchase case study. You have a duplex, which you used other people money. You're going to talk about that. OPM. You have another one where the same way,
Portfolio loan.
and then another one. So which out of these ones, pick maybe 2 that you want to talk about.
Let's do that lease option because it's completely different.
Cool.
So this actually was next door to my first billboard fourplex I
Yeah,
talked about.
it looks like the
It
same.
is. It's identical, just
Yeah.
as blue instead of yellow. It actually shared a parking lot. And so I approached the landlord who lived in California saying, hey, I've got a way to reduce your cost by sharing and getting a bigger dumpster. It'll cut our cost. And it was my only way to just try to get to know him because I wanted to buy the property. That's all it was. And so he liked that I was actively trying to do something to help him.
Of course.
Built a relationship.
So let me highlight that. So you wanted to connect with this guy. What most people would have done is, what's his number? Call. Hey, can we go to lunch? He doesn't care about lunch. He has a lot of money. And there wasn't a value exchange for him. So again, instead, strategically, you thought, how can I add value to this guy? Well, I can add value by increasing this, by getting more money for him. He's into that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to come to you with a solution with value. Oh, and by the way, because I'm bringing value, you'll get on the phone with me, and then maybe there's more value to be had later down the road. So many people want great mentors or leaders. You got to add more value than you take. By the way, we all have access to all the mentors in the world through Spotify and podcast and Audible. But again, for this case, you were really smart about it, and you use that same principle in other places.
Yeah. It was all about trying to add value first.
Yeah.
And then once the relationship was there would be trust because I knew to buy it, I didn't have money. I just didn't have the money. Anytime I did, I was putting it to work in another deal. And when you buy real estate, that becomes illiquid until you build it back up again, right? And so I didn't have the cash. And so this was another creative deal where I talked about a lease option to then purchase it later. So what that means is, unlike seller finance, I don't take title. He still had title, which gave him control. But I worked out a triple net lease type of an arrangement where I will take on this project for you as the owner, or as the tenant, You don't have to operate or manage it anymore.
You know, I have to manage 4 families. You just work with me.
Yes, I'm your tenant. I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars each month. I will then work with the tenants, make sure they collect, and if they don't, I still owe you rent. And over 15 months, I think is what it was, I will then purchase the property from you at this amount. And so I knew that if I could get the rents up higher, I would be in a position to be able to refinance this at a much higher appraised value.
Buy it for less than what you knew it could be worth.
Yes. So I set a certain price based on his current understanding of the market and where the lease rates were.
Yeah.
Then, during that 15 months, did a bunch of sweat equity items to increase the value through raising the rents from the tenants. So I started out, at what my lease rate was to him. But then by the time I went to refinance it, it was probably $800 more a month between the 4. And so when it came time, it still didn't have quite enough for me to do a no down. And so I didn't have money. So I did a hard money loan. And then I was able to get it to the higher amount, and I refinanced out. So it ended up being a $10,000, and that 10 grand was really to replace the roof. It needed a new roof, and I knew that would be a problem. So I put a new roof on, and everything else was sweat equity, better operations, better management, better yard care, and increasing the rent, and then allowed me to buy it, and then sold it later for almost $800K. Ended up being a very good profit for me.
Again, creative, scrappy, didn't have to bring money down because you leased it. The $10,000 was.
Oh, you know what, John? Honestly, I didn't have enough equity. So what I did, it wasn't a hard money loan. I asked him to finance the gap of the total equity I needed to close on the refinance. You typically need 75% loan to value.
Yeah.
I was about, 20K short. And so I asked him if I close on it, if he would fund 20K, and I'll pay him over like a 5-year period with interest. And he was willing to do it because of the relationship. I'd always made timely payments. I communicated what was happening at the property. He built a relationship of trust, and it allowed me to then close with no money down.
And ultimately, you made $450,000.
Yeah. Lease option purchase.
That sounds like a good. That's gonna work, Dawson. It's gonna work. Amazing. Okay, maybe one more, Jason. Which one of these would you like to take?
Let's do OPM, although that last deal is really good. It was really cool. But OPM is another one that I think is important for people.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, that's the portfolio loans.
Let's do that one.
Let's do that one. And I'll bring up portfolio loans just because it's important for people to know.
Great.
Portfolio loans are when you go to a bank or credit union and they use in-house money instead of selling off the loan to Fannie and Freddie. Fannie and Freddie backs all of the loans that you'll do at any bank, but it meets the criteria that they set.
So we did this. We bought 2 fourplexes in Salt Lake.
Yeah,
together.
you and I have done many.
I did a portfolio loan. You were tapped on your loan amounts.
Yeah, 10 each.
10.
Carrie and I both.
So you guys were completely tapped, and I went in and did 2 portfolio loans with Mountain America Credit Union.
Yeah, and do you remember what the terms were?
I know they were way better than
our down payment was 10.
Yeah,
and there's sometimes had a 15%. Yeah, and so we just would analyze which was best.
Yeah.
So I did several of those. This wasn't one of those types of deals, but some of the other deals were. And normally what I did, because Carrie got her license, I would construct the deal, find it off market, and bake in a 6 or 7% real estate commission.
And Carrie would do it.
And she would get the commission at closing, and that would then be my 50% contribution towards the 10 or 15% down payment. No money down still for me, because we were applying the commission for our portion. So I still had skin in the game. But again, not having money, I had to be creative, and so
Scrappy,
that's how I was
creative.
able to get
Full-time gig.
Yep.
Again, this was your full-time gig.
I was hustling. I mean, I loved real estate so much more than my day job, and that was probably what was different. I still liked financial services, but I loved learning about investing, and I liked people. I liked talking to people, but it never seemed like this was going to be my long-term career, and nor did I ever expect it to be. Again, going back to my dad, I wasn't going to rely on a job to provide my financial, independence. I was willing to go and do that as an investor. I just didn't know how to do real estate full time. And provide for my family. So it was financial advisor by day, real estate investor by night. And real estate was the passion, it was the dream. It wasn't until I built up a big enough personal portfolio that I felt comfortable to walk away from the day job and then to do real estate full time. So this was maybe at this time still the side hustle, but it consumed my time. That's what I spent my time focused on. So this was just a partnership deal, similar to what I said that you and I have done.
Yeah.
I had someone that was willing to front all the cash for the deal. I put the deal together, but what we would do is they
Jason, zero. Jim and Lisa, 100K.
yeah. So they put up all the money. They got all their money back.
You did all the work.
I did all the work, assembled the deal. I actually had to kick out a tenant who'd been there for 26 years. She was more of a hoarder. And she ended up writing me a thank you letter because it decluttered everything. She ended up getting into a better place. One of those rare stories, but she really actually appreciated it. She ended up learning about this other incentive that she was eligible for that put her in a better place. And so we then gutted the place, ended up doing a big renovation. Lisa said she'd never do another deal with me after this one. She was scared to death. The timelines were taking
This is
longer.
your mother-in-law. Yeah.
We put it on the market. We got tons of offers. She took the first one, even though we could have gotten more. I was so bugged by this. Love her to death.
Still.
Love her to death. Yeah, still bugged. But she wanted to out of it as soon as it closed because she's a worrier.
Yeah.
So she was worried that it wasn't going to happen. As soon as it closed, we made a 70, I think it was 70,000, 75K is what it says there. And she's like, okay, what are we doing next?
All right,
I'm
ready.
like, come on, Lisa.
70 grand from 100 in 6 months.
Well, funny enough, I don't even think they ended up having to put the full 100. I told them we may need 100. I think it ended up being 60K that we put in. So I think it ended up being
Again,
double. You know.
OPM, other people's money, scrappy. And again, there's 6 more deals. So I guess if nothing else, there's active and passive investing. If you have listened to this and said, hey, this is like a lot and this is a full-time gig, I'm going to keep worrying about selling and creating tons of money, and I'm going to give my money to this guy who seems like he knows what he's doing. That would be a great outcome, and that is what I have done. We've done some of these deals together, but you've been the one driving. I've done some personal deals. I don't do really any anymore, but I trust you and your team as experts, 10,000 hours, to take really good care of my money and then do these type of deals at scale now. I meant to include in the last slide, tomorrow at 3 p.m., Jason's going to come to HQ and present on this gas station deal, which is solid returns. The biggest appeal of this deal is a 210% tax depreciation. So if you put in $50,000, you get out $110,000 or $105,000 of depreciation. 100 grand, $210,000 of depreciation. And so
I think we'll exceed that too.
which is amazing. Yep. Again, you put in 100 grand, you can write off on your taxes if you're a real estate professional, which we've talked about. $210,000 decrease your tax liability. And it's the accumulation of being able to do deals like that, all these deals put together to now where you guys do these deals every single multiple deals a year, and this is your full-time gig. And so if you're interested, join the live tomorrow at 3. Jason at Jesse at HarrisInvestmentGroup.com is also you can reach out to if you want deal information on that deal or others. Book for December, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And then upcoming schedule, we're going to have Casey on at the end of the month that week. It might not be that exact day, but I'll send it out. Again, apologies for not sending out the live earlier. Meant to do that and so that we'd have more time for questions. If there are any questions, again, don't know if there's going to be anybody live because I sent out late, so they might be catching up. But Jason, yeah, any last words? Thank you so much for coming on and being with our group. You know them, you know so many of the leaders, and know what position they're in and the opportunity they have.
Most of your group knows this already. And thank you. Yeah, I appreciate being on.
It's always fun
been
hanging.
Yeah. I'll see you at the house. So.
Exactly. Correct.
The neighborhood. No, I just say that. What was I going to say about it?
I distracted you with the neighborhood.
First off, this was the beginning, the early years. I still have my order of operations, I'd call it. I loved math growing up. So order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponents, multiplication. Like that's how we were taught it. I think they have a new way of teaching math these days. But anyways, it's the same when it comes to putting your money to work. There is still a process and an order of operations of where I see the best use cases of putting the money to work. So in financial services, it's always taking the 401k match that your employer is willing to give you, right? Put $1,000 in, your company will give you $1,000 match. That's a guaranteed 100% return on your money. So there are these order of operations to investing that you should always be thinking through.
Standard operating procedures is another way to say it. Principles. What Jason just talked about, a company 401k match. So if you put in money, the company will match up to a certain percentage of your salary. For example, here at Grit, we do 5% match. And so again, you make
awesome.
you make $100,000. You put in $5,000, the company will give you $5,000, which is a 100% return.
It's amazing. Everyone should take full advantage of that if they have the opportunity. If the plan allows for Roth,
I should say 401k, that is for our corporate employees. Yeah. I'm going to get a bunch of texts from, so I'll be like, so where do I get my money?
Well, any of your 1099 guys can set up the same thing.
Yes.
It's just a solo K, but do the Roth solo K plan, and you too can do a match within your own plan. You should do that. If you have the disposable income to invest and put some money away, I love real estate, but I still max out my retirement accounts, and I do all things Roth, and still try to generate the maximum match. So we do a 6% at Harris Investment Group, and I want to get
one up us there.
We just increased it to 6. I'm loving that I just did
from
that.
4%.
5.
So on average,
we were at 5 this year.
Dang it, I was going to say on average.
So I love being able to get that match, and there's some new laws and provisions that allow for that to be converted to Roth. Even the employer portion, you as the employee have to pay the taxable event, unless you're a real estate professional. Use some depreciation from your real estate, shelter that conversion, but then you're getting all that money in a tax-free growth account, a Roth. So all things Roth, 401k, Roth IRA. Do the match first, then go to the Roth IRA, come back to your 401k plan, max it out. Then I look to real estate. Where now is my taxable income going to be? Let's just say it's $1 million. I'm going to have $1 million year. I need to shelter that. I'm looking for truck stops or multifamily. Those are the two asset classes that we're in. Yeah. So I'm looking, what are my growth or investment return objectives along with my tax strategy needs? I need to generate $1 million or more of tax loss shelter so that I don't pay taxes this year. And I'm usually, whatever you generate in NOL loss or
in excess
depreciation.
Yeah.
It's an NOL carry forward. It allows you to carry it to the next year. I usually like to have a carryover amount so that next year I have losses
I bet you do.
already baked in.
Why wouldn't you?
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So those are just important things. Understand what your goals are. In the beginning, I had $5,000 a year of money I could set aside, which is why I was so scrappy, trying to find very creative ways to build wealth, and to me, it was awesome to only make $50K a year, but still know I just did a deal with only a $3,000 amount, and I made $200K in the deal that year, and that adds to my net worth.
You made 4 times your income in a deal.
And so I still was able to build wealth despite my minimal income because I loved the real estate investment options, and I wanted to know how to assemble the same deal that you showed earlier 100 different ways and find for me which one was going to work best to extract the best return and to de-risk it from failure. And so that you do enough deals over time, you learn how to be a good negotiator and to assemble a deal for maximum return and maximum protection.
Again,
and so
principles of investing, habitual investing, building muscles of investing and giving. And in some ways, and we'll close with this, in some ways, you guys are at a disadvantage because you don't have to be scrappy. You do have money to spend. You do have money to invest $100,000 at a time, which again is really, really great. And if you have this mindset of I am broke and I'm going to, again, live on as little as I can while being reasonable and taking experiences that are good and you should without doing it in excess, and you invest the difference, you're just going to live an incredible life. which is, again, the point of the wealth equation is to help everyone not just make great money, which is what we do at Grit, but to be really smart with it and get ahead. And so, Jason, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate you all for watching. Until the next episode.
Yeah. Would you care if I say one last thing?
Please.
I know you just wrapped it up.
Wrap it. Close it.
I'm going to say one more
Close
thing.
it.
Check out those first-time home buyer credits. There's one for the state and there's one for federal that's pending for 2026. But outside of that, one thing that's unique when you're doing it passively, whether it's Studio 168, us, and other opportunities, or even your own network of people who maybe you put a deal together with, when you do it a passive approach and there's cash flow, you don't have to take on the personal guarantee. Whereas when you did the fourplex deals, you and I
was liable.
You were liable, and also it showed up on a credit report for your DSCR or debt-to-income ratio. And so it helps in your early years as a sales guy, 1099 salesperson. To have the ability to get cash flow from a passive investment without any guarantee to increase your debt to income, because
great call out.
It takes a couple years or more before you have enough tax returns filed to qualify on your own.
And so this is the way you can get in the game without being able to.
Exactly. And it's just so much more helpful when you use depreciation or a phantom loss as your tax mitigation strategy than an actual loss, because most tax deductions, you're spending money
to save money.
You go get that truck or whatever it is that you're buying. The IRS or an underwriter, when you go to get a loan, is going to see that as a real cost and not add that back to what they see as your actual income. Even if you made $200K, they may only see that you can support $50K.
Which again, this is the tax and real estate depreciation we talked about with Mendez. And so again, same principles.
It's why depreciation or tax strategy is so much better, because from a tax standpoint, you can pay zero, but qualifying for loans, they add all the depreciation back to show what your real income is. So it's a phantom loss that's not real, where most deductions in the code are real losses because you spent money in order to get the deduction.
It's amazing. And Jason and I have an ongoing joke of being the big dog, and so in the spirit of letting Jason get the last word, thank you. Go ahead, say thank you. There you go. You did it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.